Illinois holds more than prairie towns and farmland. It hides echoes of lost civilizations, buried treasure, and unexplained relics. From ancient stone forts and mysterious carvings to caves rumored to conceal outlaw gold, the state's landscape is layered with stories that blur the line between history and legend. These are the ancient mysteries of Illinois. The Burrows Cave Mystery. In the quiet farmland of southern Illinois, near the town of Olney, there's a story that's been whispered among historians, skeptics, and treasure hunters for nearly 40 years. It begins with a man named Russell E. Burrows, who claimed that one day in 1982, while hiking through the bluffs, he stumbled upon a narrow opening in the rock. What he found inside, he said, was something that could rewrite history, a hidden cave filled with hundreds of carved stones, golden artifacts, and ancient relics that seemed completely out of place in North America. According to Burrows, this was no ordinary cave. He described a labyrinth-like series of tunnels that went deep into the limestone hills, a place so vast that he supposedly explored only a fraction of it. The walls, he claimed, were covered in inscriptions, Egyptian hieroglyphs, Phoenician letters, and even Latin phrases. The artifacts he said he found there included carved tablets depicting warriors, kings, and gods that seemed to belong to civilizations separated by oceans and centuries. To him, it was proof of an ancient transatlantic civilization that had settled in the Midwest long before Columbus ever dreamed of crossing the Atlantic. It sounded unbelievable, and maybe that's why it caught so much attention. News of Burrows Cave spread quietly at first through fringe archaeology circles, then exploded in the 1990s as photos and rubbings of the mysterious stones began to circulate. Many people wanted to believe that the cave was real, that the ancient world had left traces far beyond what mainstream history accepted. But there was a problem. No one else could ever seem to find it. Burrows guarded the location fiercely, saying he was afraid the government or looters would destroy it. He claimed to have sealed the cave after retrieving artifacts, refusing to tell anyone its exact coordinates. That secrecy created the perfect storm: endless speculation, divided opinions, and decades of mystery. Those who believed him argued that he was protecting something sacred. They pointed to the intricate carvings on the stones as evidence of a lost Mediterranean culture that reached America thousands of years ago. Some thought they saw images of Egyptian-style deities, crosses, or faces that looked distinctly African or Middle Eastern. Others said the artifacts hinted at a mixed culture, something that combined elements of Phoenician, Greek, and early Christian iconography. Critics, on the other hand, called it one of the greatest archaeological hoaxes of the 20th century. Archaeologists who examined the stones noted that the carvings lacked proper linguistic structure. The hieroglyphs didn't make sense. The Latin phrases were often misspelled or randomly assembled, and the patina, the thin natural layer that builds up over centuries, didn't match what would be expected from artifacts supposedly thousands of years old. Still, even with the growing criticism, Burrows stood by his story until his death. He gave interviews, sold or traded hundreds of stones, and even worked with researchers who tried to document everything he claimed. But since the cave itself remained undiscovered, his claims could never be proven or completely disproven. Over time, the Burrows Cave story became something larger than just an archaeological mystery. It turned into a reflection of human curiosity and our need to believe in something more. Some people saw it as a possible key to a forgotten chapter of pre-Columbian history. Others saw it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of wishful thinking. If you visit the Olney area today, you won't find any signs pointing to a cave or any historical markers acknowledging its existence. There's no public site to explore, no museum exhibit showing the artifacts. The location remains unknown, hidden somewhere beneath layers of rumor and farmland, yet the legend lingers. Locals still talk about it, some skeptically, others with quiet fascination. A few private collectors claim to own genuine Burrows cave stones. They describe them as smooth, palm-sized pieces of slate, each etched with faces, animals, or symbols. Many are crude, but some are surprisingly detailed, as if carved by someone with real artistic training. Whether these were made by ancient hands or modern ones is impossible to say for sure, but for believers, each stone is a fragment of a story too important to dismiss. Interestingly, this isn't the only time such mysterious out-of-place artifacts have surfaced in the Midwest. Similar stones, sometimes called the Illinois tablets, have been discovered in other parts of the state over the last century. Most were dismissed as forgeries, but to some, they add fuel to the idea that ancient travelers may indeed have reached the Mississippi Valley long ago. Archaeologists point out that the region was home to one of North America's most advanced ancient cities, Cahokia, located just across the state in Collinsville. Cahokia's massive earthen mounds and complex trade networks show that sophisticated cultures did exist here long before European contact. But mainstream historians say there's no evidence linking Cahokia or any indigenous civilization to the kind of artifacts Burrows described. Still, the question remains. If the cave never existed, how did hundreds of similar stones appear? Were they all made by Burrows himself? That would have been a monumental effort. Supporters argue he couldn't have carved so many so quickly. Skeptics counter that modern tools and molds could easily reproduce such pieces. Some even suggest that the artifacts might have been part of an elaborate con to sell fake relics to collectors hungry for mystery. The Burrows cave debate remains unresolved because the physical evidence, the cave itself, is missing. Without it, everything depends on second-hand accounts, photographs, and stones scattered among private owners. And with Burrows gone, so are the precise details of the location. For some, that's part of what makes it haunting. Imagine a hidden cave system beneath the Illinois soil, filled with strange carvings that have never seen daylight in centuries. Whether real or invented, the image itself has power. It speaks to the deep human urge to uncover buried truths, to find something ancient and forgotten beneath our feet. Today, if you stand on one of the bluffs near Olney and look out over the landscape, it's easy to imagine how such a secret could remain hidden. The terrain is rugged in places, with wooded ravines and limestone cliffs. Small caves and sinkholes dot the area, many barely explored. It's not impossible that something unusual could lie concealed underground. But then again, maybe the real mystery isn't in the ground, it's in the story itself. How a single man's claim can ignite decades of fascination. How belief, doubt, and imagination can blend until the truth feels just out of reach. In the end, the Burrows Cave mystery stands somewhere between legend and archaeology, between skepticism and wonder. Whether it was a hoax, a misunderstanding, or a hidden truth still waiting to be rediscovered, it continues to draw people in, and maybe that's the lasting power of it. Sometimes the most captivating mysteries aren't the ones we solve, they're the ones that never quite let us go. The rock art of Piney Creek Ravine. Tucked away in the dense woods of southern Illinois, just outside Chester, lies one of the state's most quietly powerful ancient sites, Piney Creek Ravine. It's a place you could hike past without realizing how extraordinary it is. On the surface, it looks like any other patch of forest in the Shawnee Hills. Creeks winding through sandstone cliffs, a canopy of oak and hickory, birds echoing in the distance. But hidden along one of the canyon walls, faint and almost blending into the rock itself, are some of the oldest known images ever carved in Illinois, mysterious petroglyphs left by ancient hands. This spot, now known as the Piney Creek Ravine State Natural Area, feels like walking through a time capsule. The petroglyphs carvings pecked into the stone surface are believed to date back hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 years. Archaeologists think they were made during the late Woodland or Mississippian periods, somewhere between 400 and 1,000 years ago. That means the people who carved them were here long before European settlers, and possibly before the great city of Cahokia reached its peak. The images themselves are both simple and strange. Some are recognizable, figures that look like humans, deer, birds, and snakes. Others are harder to interpret. Geometric shapes, circles, crosses, and abstract forms that seem to have some kind of symbolic meaning we can't quite decipher. One of the most haunting images shows a large human-like figure with outstretched arms, almost resembling a shaman or spiritual being. Another shows what looks like a long serpent twisting across the rock, its body coiling toward a small cluster of shapes that could represent the sun or stars. Standing in front of the panel, you can feel that whoever made these carvings wasn't doing it for decoration. These weren't random doodles. They were messages, maybe prayers, stories, or warnings, maybe maps of the spirit world, or records of seasonal changes. The truth is, no one knows for sure, but the effort it took to make them, chipping each line into the sandstone using stone tools, suggests they held deep meaning for the people who created them. Over time, archaeologists have identified around 150 individual carvings across several panels in the ravine, making Piney Creek one of the largest rock art sites in Illinois. Many of them are faint now, worn down by centuries of rain and wind, but they're still there if you know where to look. The site is protected, and access to the main petroglyph panel is limited to preserve it. But the surrounding trails give a sense of the land's sacred quiet. The location itself seems intentional. The carvings are found in a secluded part of the ravine, hidden from easy view and near a natural water source. That combination, rock, water, and isolation, is often linked to sacred spaces in ancient Native American traditions. Across North America, petroglyphs and pictographs tend to appear in similar places where the natural world seems to carry a special presence. It's easy to imagine ancient people gathering here for ceremonies, using the sounds of running water and the echo of the cliffs as part of their ritual experience. Some of the symbols at Piney Creek resemble those found at other sites across the Midwest, hinting that the artists may have been part of a larger cultural network. The spiral shapes and cross forms, for instance, show up in rock art from Missouri, Kentucky, and even as far south as Tennessee. This suggests a shared symbolic language, one that may have been passed through generations or carried by traveling groups who shared common beliefs about the land and the cosmos. Researchers who've studied the site have also noticed how the carvings interact with sunlight. At certain times of year, the morning sun strikes the rock face in a way that highlights specific figures while leaving others in shadow. That's led some to wonder if the petroglyphs were aligned to track solstices or equinoxes. If true, it would mean the site wasn't just spiritual, it was astronomical, a calendar carved in stone. Of course, interpretations vary. Some scholars see Piney Creek as a ceremonial place used by shamans or healers. Others think it might have marked a boundary between tribal territories or a point along a seasonal migration route. A few even suggest the carvings were meant to connect with the spirits of ancestors, each figure a kind of offering to the unseen world. Whatever the purpose, what's undeniable is the emotional effect the place still has today. People who visit often describe a quiet, almost reverent feeling as they stand near the carvings. There's no noise except the creek and the wind, no signs or fences telling you what to think. You just stand there looking at those faint lines in the stone, realizing they were made by someone who lived here 1,000 years ago and wanted to leave something behind that would last. Sadly, the site has also faced its share of problems. In the mid-20th century, before it was fully protected, parts of the rock art were damaged by graffiti and erosion. Some carvings were chipped away by people hoping to take pieces as souvenirs. Others were worn down by repeated tracing and photography. It wasn't until the 1970s and 1980s that Piney Creek began to receive proper archaeological attention and conservation efforts. Now it's carefully monitored by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and most visitors are encouraged to view from a distance. That protection has helped preserve what remains, but it's also turned Piney Creek into a kind of hidden shrine for those who love ancient history. To reach it, you have to hike along narrow, uneven trails, crossing streams and sandstone ledges. When you finally arrive, the petroglyph wall doesn't immediately stand out. It blends into the rock until your eyes adjust. Then slowly the figures begin to appear. One here, another there, lines becoming faces, symbols coming to life. It's almost like the rock decides when to show them to you. For many who visit, that moment feels deeply personal. You can't help but wonder about the people who carved these shapes. What did they see when they looked at this cliff? Did they believe the rock itself was alive? Were these carvings a form of prayer, a dialogue with the land? Modern descendants of the region's native tribes, like the Shawnee, Miami, and Illini, see places like Piney Creek as part of a broader spiritual landscape where the natural world and the human spirit were never separate. The carvings, in that sense, might not be meant for us at all. They could be messages intended for the land itself, or for beings that once watched over it. Today, Piney Creek remains one of the most mysterious and atmospheric places in Illinois. It's not grand like Cahokia or famous like Burrows Cave, but it carries an intimacy that those sites can't match. It's art made by touch, carved into stone by people who wanted to leave a trace of their existence long after they were gone. If you ever stand there in the quiet, looking at those faint lines glimmering in filtered sunlight, you might realize something simple but profound: mystery isn't always about what we can't explain. Sometimes it's about what we can still feel, even when the meaning is lost. Piney Creek Ravine reminds us that the past doesn't have to shout. Sometimes it whispers from the rock itself. The lost mines of the Shawnee Hills. In the deep forested ridges of southern Illinois, where the Shawnee Hills rise between the Mississippi and Ohio rivers, stories of hidden treasure have been told for generations. Locals still talk about it on quiet nights, the lost mines of the Shawnee Hills. It's a legend that mixes truth, folklore, and a touch of greed, centered on the idea that somewhere in those winding hills lies a forgotten source of silver or gold, once worked by mysterious hands and sealed away forever. To understand the legend, you have to picture the region itself. The Shawnee Hills are ancient, made of sandstone cliffs and thick forests that seem to swallow up sound. Streams cut through deep hollows, and limestone caves hide under the hillsides. It's easy to get lost here, even with a map. Early settlers called it both beautiful and treacherous, a land full of promise but also secrets. The stories of lost mines go back to the early 1700s, when French explorers and traders moved through what was then the Illinois country. They had heard rumors from local tribes about places where the earth bled silver. Some accounts claim the French discovered these veins and began mining small amounts of ore, smelting it near the Mississippi River. Others say it wasn't the French at all, but the Spanish, who came north from their outposts and worked the mines in secret before abandoning them when native resistance grew too strong. One of the most enduring tales is that of the old Shawnee silver mine. According to the story, a Frenchman named Philippe Renaud, who led a mining expedition through the region around 1720, stumbled upon a rich vein of silver somewhere near what is now Hardin County. Renaud supposedly used enslaved labor to extract ore from the hillside, hiding the operation from rival powers. When war and unrest swept through the frontier, he's said to have sealed the mine and fled back to Kaskaskia, leaving behind barrels of unrefined silver hidden in a cave. No one ever found them, or if they did, they never talked. Over the next century, pioneers and frontiersmen continued to claim sightings of strange workings deep in the hills. Some described tunnels lined with timber supports, rusted picks, and smelter pits filled with slag. Others claimed to have seen carved crosses or Spanish symbols near rock outcrops, like markers pointing the way. The stories varied with each telling. Some said the mines held gold, others silver, and a few even whispered of ancient copper. Yet they all agreed on one thing: something valuable once came out of those hills. As the decades passed, the legend of the lost mines became part of the folklore that defined southern Illinois. Prospectors arrived in the 1800s, digging holes, blasting rock, and panning the creeks for trace metals. They found minerals, yes, iron, lead, even a little zinc, but never the fabled treasure. Still, the rumors refused to die. Every few years, someone new would swear they'd found the entrance to Renaud's mine, or stumbled upon old tools buried in the dirt. Some claimed to have maps handed down through families, with cryptic symbols marking a hidden valley or ridge. There's one particular area near Garden of the Gods that many treasure hunters point to. The massive sandstone formations there, shaped by time into pillars and cliffs, look almost otherworldly. Hidden between them are countless caves and fissures, perfect places to hide something. In the 1930s, several expeditions were organized to search the area using those old maps, but none came back with anything more than interesting rocks and tall tales. Another version of the story ties the mines to the Shawnee people themselves. Some say the native tribes who lived in the region long before European contact already knew of these deposits and used them to craft ornaments or trade goods. A few legends describe how they hid or destroyed the mines to keep colonizers from exploiting them. The story usually ends with a warning: anyone who digs where they shouldn't will meet misfortune, and plenty of people claim they have. Local lore is filled with ghostly twists: miners who vanished without a trace, strange lights seen flickering in the woods at night, and caves that seem to breathe as if something alive is inside. There's even talk of a guardian spirit, sometimes described as a tall man in old frontier clothes, who appears just as treasure hunters are about to make a discovery. They always flee in fear, and when they return, the cave they found is gone, buried by a landslide, or covered by a sudden flood. Skeptics say it's all fantasy, a patchwork of stories created from bits of history and wishful thinking, and they're probably right, at least in part. The geology of the Shawnee Hills doesn't really support large veins of silver or gold. It's mostly sandstone and limestone, materials that don't typically host precious metals. But the region does contain deposits of iron and lead, which could explain how the legends began. Early explorers might have mistaken these for something more valuable, and over time, the stories simply grew. Still, even with the scientific explanations, the mystery holds. There's something about these hills that makes people believe. The terrain itself seems to encourage secrets: dense forests, endless ridges, and caves that twist beyond the reach of light. It's easy to imagine that deep inside one of them lies a sealed chamber, untouched since the 1700s. Modern treasure hunters have tried everything from metal detectors to ground-penetrating radar, but no confirmed site has ever been uncovered. A few have claimed success, usually pointing to old smelter slag or carved stones, but none have produced evidence strong enough to convince historians. That hasn't stopped the search. Even today, online forums and local groups swap coordinates, compare maps, and hike deep into the Shawnee National Forest chasing the legend. But there's also a quieter side to the story. Some believe the lost mines aren't about treasure at all. They think the legends were symbolic, warnings or moral tales about greed and the land's sacredness. The Shawnee Hills have always been seen as a place of power, rich in natural beauty and ancient presence. To dig into that, some say, was to disturb something that shouldn't be disturbed. In that sense, the missing silver isn't what matters, the lesson does. If you visit the area today, you'll find the Shawnee Hills just as mysterious as ever. The trails at Garden of the Gods, Rim Rock and Bellsmith Springs wind through rock shelters and cliffs that feel older than time. It's not hard to imagine someone centuries ago lighting a torch, stepping into the darkness, and carving a hidden passage into the stone. Whether that ever truly happened or not, the story leaves a mark on the imagination. Standing at the edge of a ridge at sunset, looking over the endless forest, you can feel why people keep searching. There's something in the air here, something half dream, half memory. Maybe the treasure was never meant to be found. Maybe the real value lies in the mystery itself, in the way it connects us to the hopes and fears of the people who came before. The lost mines of the Shawnee Hills may never be uncovered, but their legend remains deeply buried in the heart of Illinois. Every story told around a campfire, every hiker who swears they heard a whisper from the woods, keeps that mystery alive, and perhaps that's all it was ever meant to do. Remind us that some secrets are better left hidden, glittering just out of reach beneath the roots of an ancient forest. The stone forts of southern Illinois. If you drive through the southern tip of Illinois, weaving between the ridges and forests of the Shawnee National Forest, you might come across something strange, hidden in the trees. Massive stone walls, weathered and silent, built by hands no one can identify. These are the mysterious stone forts of southern Illinois, ancient structures that seem to have no clear purpose, no known builders, and no recorded history explaining how or why they were made. Local hikers often stumble across them without realizing their age. They look like the remains of old fortifications, piles of limestone arranged in long, curved walls across high ridges. In some places, the rocks stretch for hundreds of feet, forming semicircular enclosures that overlook valleys or rivers below. They've been called forts for over a century, though no one can say with confidence who built them, or even if they were really meant for defense. Archaeologists have identified at least a dozen of these sites across southern Illinois, with some of the best-known examples located at places like Millstone Bluff, Giant City State Park, and Stonefort Hill near Maconda. Each site is slightly different, but they share the same mysterious layout: walls built along narrow ridgelines, usually with a single gap or gate leading inside. There's no sign of houses, pottery, or weapons within the enclosures, just stone piled with surprising precision and effort. So who built them? The first written mentions date back to the early 1800s, when European settlers exploring the region discovered these strange walls and assumed they were remnants of ancient forts. Some even believed they were built by early native tribes as lookouts against enemies. Others thought they were remnants of a forgotten race, part of the same mound builder myths that circulated before archaeologists fully understood the history of North America. By the late 19th century, scholars began studying them more closely. They discovered that most of the stone forts sit on naturally defensible high ground, suggesting they might have been used for protection or ceremony. But the real puzzle is their age. Radiocarbon tests from nearby sites and artifacts found in similar layers suggest the forts could date back as far as 400–500 BCE, around the time of the early woodland period, when mound-building cultures were just beginning to emerge in the Ohio and Mississippi valleys. That means whoever built them lived long before Cahokia rose to power, long before written records, and long before modern tribal names were known. Some archaeologists think these enclosures may have been built by ancestral groups of the Native American tribes that later inhabited the region, perhaps used for temporary defense or ritual gatherings. But others aren't convinced they were forts at all. If you stand at Giant City's stone fort, you'll notice how the wall curves gracefully across the ridge, following the natural contour of the land. It doesn't enclose a large space, just enough for a small group to stand within. There are no signs of extended occupation, no fire pits, no bones, no storage areas. It almost feels symbolic, like it marked a sacred boundary rather than a defensive position. Some researchers believe these sites could have been ceremonial centers or seasonal gathering places where ancient people met for trade, rituals, or observances of the stars. A few even suggest they might align with celestial events, much like the mounds and earthworks farther south. The elevated ridges would have provided clear views of the horizon, making them ideal for watching the sunrise or tracking solstices. That idea adds another layer to their mystery. Were the stone forts actually temples in disguise, places where ancient people connected with the sky and the land? Of course, there's another possibility, that they served multiple purposes over time. Early builders may have used them for spiritual reasons, while later groups reused them as strongholds or lookout points. Ancient sites often evolve like that, adapting with each generation that rediscovers them. Legends around these stone forts have always been strong in southern Illinois. Some locals tell stories of hidden tunnels beneath them, leading deep into the bluffs. Others speak of strange lights seen flickering around the walls at night, or whispers that echo in the trees. A few believe the structures are connected to ancient mound-building cultures, and may have once formed part of a broader sacred landscape stretching all the way to the Ohio River. One site that often captures imaginations is Millstone Bluff, located near Simpson. Unlike the others, this ridgetop site contains both a stone enclosure and evidence of later Native American occupation. Petroglyphs, carvings of human figures, animals, and symbols can still be seen etched into the rock surface. Standing there, surrounded by forest and silence, you get a sense of how layered the past truly is. You can almost feel the weight of generations who came and went, each leaving their mark on the same stones. Modern archaeology has tried to bring order to the mystery, but the forts resist easy answers. Excavations have revealed little beyond the stones themselves. There are no inscriptions or clear indicators of what rituals might have taken place. The effort it would have taken to haul and arrange thousands of pounds of rock suggests a purpose that went beyond simple utility. Whatever these structures meant, they mattered deeply to the people who built them. Today, most of the known stone forts are protected within parks or forest reserves. You can hike to many of them, though the trails are often rugged. At Giant City, the main wall stands quietly among the trees, moss-covered and half-collapsed in places, but still impressive. It doesn't take much imagination to picture how it looked when it was first built, newly stacked stone glinting in the sunlight, the view stretching endlessly over the valley below. Visiting one in person feels both grounding and unsettling. There's no plaque to explain exactly what you're looking at. No certainty, just speculation. You can stand there for a long time, trying to piece together the story from the silence. The forest around you hums softly, the air feels heavy with age, and you start to understand why these places inspire so many theories. Some locals believe the forts were part of a defensive network, built to protect a vanished people from enemies who never made it into written history. Others think they're remnants of a ceremonial complex that connected ancient tribes across vast distances. A few modern theorists even link them to more far-fetched ideas: Atlantean travelers, old world explorers, or remnants of an advanced prehistoric civilization. None of that can be proven. But the sense of mystery is real. It lingers in the air, in the texture of the stones, in the way the walls still hold their shape after thousands of years. Whether the forts were strongholds, temples, or territorial markers, they remind us that ancient Illinois was far more complex and connected than most people realize. If you visit today, the forts don't look like much at first glance, just piles of rock on a hill. But if you stand still and listen, you might feel the same thing early settlers did when they found them. A quiet awareness that this land has secrets, and some of them are still hiding in plain sight. The cave and rock legends and hidden treasure tales. Perched high above the Ohio River, on the rugged bluffs of southern Illinois, is one of the state's most dramatic and mysterious places, Cave and Rock. This natural landmark, carved into solid limestone, has been a witness to centuries of history, legend, and lawlessness. At first glance, it's a stunning geological wonder, a yawning cavern, about 55 feet wide, opening like a dark mouth into the cliffside. But to those who know its past, it's far more than a pretty sight. It's a place where countless stories of pirates, bandits, and buried treasure have taken root, and where the line between history and folklore has long since blurred. The story of Cave and Rock begins with nature itself. Over thousands of years, the Ohio River slowly ate away at the limestone, creating this hollow space on the Illinois side of the border. Indigenous peoples were the first to discover and use it, perhaps as a temporary shelter or lookout point. Later, early European explorers and traders marked it on their maps as a navigational point. But by the late 1700s, as flatboats and keelboats began drifting down the river toward the Mississippi, Cave and Rock gained a darker reputation. This was the frontier, wild, lawless, and unpredictable. The Ohio River was the main highway of commerce, but also a corridor of danger. Bandits and con men soon realized that this cave made the perfect hideout. From its high vantage point, they could spot incoming boats, lie in wait, and ambush unsuspecting travelers. It was remote enough to vanish into, yet close enough to the river to launch quick attacks. The first group linked to the cave was a gang known as the Mason Gang, led by the ruthless Samuel Mason. Mason had once been a Revolutionary War soldier, but after deserting, he turned to robbery and murder. His band of outlaws, along with river pirates and counterfeiters, used Cave and Rock as their den in the late 1790s. They'd wave down riverboats pretending to offer food or trade, then rob and sometimes kill the crew. Victims' bodies were said to be dumped into the Ohio River below. Some tales even describe makeshift gallows set up inside the cave for those who resisted. When Mason's gang was finally broken up, others filled the void. Among the most famous were the Harpe brothers, two of America's first known serial killers. In the late 1790s, Big and Little Harpe terrorized the frontier, killing travelers for sport and hiding their loot in the cave. According to legend, they used the cave not just as a hideout, but as a gruesome base of operations. One story claims they even displayed a decapitated head at the cave entrance as a warning. The Harpes were eventually hunted down, but their legend left an indelible mark on the place. As decades passed, Cave and Rock continued to draw outlaws and adventurers. By the early 1800s, counterfeiters, smugglers, and river pirates all took turns claiming it. Stories spread of gold and silver hidden in the nearby hills, treasure buried in the cave floor, and secret tunnels leading from the cavern to the riverbank below. Locals whispered about strange lights seen near the cave at night. Some believed they were ghostly lanterns of long-dead thieves, still searching for their lost loot. Not all the tales were dark, some were just strange. There are accounts of travelers who claim to hear voices echoing from deep within the cave, or of seeing shadowy figures on moonlit nights that vanished when approached. Others reported finding crude carvings on the walls, initials, symbols, even what appeared to be maps scratched into the limestone. Whether these were the marks of early visitors, treasure hunters, or the bandits themselves, no one really knows. By the 1820s, river traffic had changed, and law enforcement grew stronger along the frontier. The days of river piracy were ending. Cave and Rock became less a criminal den and more a curiosity, a stop for travelers who'd heard of its notorious past. Writers and journalists visited, spreading its legend farther. Eventually, in 1929, the land around the cave was turned into Cave and Rock State Park, preserving both the natural formation and its eerie history. Visiting the site today, you can still feel that atmosphere. The cave sits at the base of a high cliff, facing the slow-moving Ohio River. A winding trail leads down from the park above, and as you step inside, the temperature drops sharply. The sound of the river fades, replaced by the echo of your own footsteps. Sunlight filters through the entrance, painting the limestone walls in soft gold. It's quiet now, peaceful, even, but you can't help feeling the weight of everything that's happened here. Some say that if you visit at dusk when the last light hits the river, you might hear faint whispers carried by the wind. Locals still talk about ghostly figures near the entrance, or lights flickering deep inside the cavern. Treasure hunters occasionally show up with metal detectors, convinced that somewhere within those dark walls lies a stash of Mason's stolen gold. None have found it, at least not publicly, but that hasn't stopped the search. Cave and Rock remains one of Illinois' most intriguing mysteries, where history and folklore collide. It's a place that reminds you how thin the boundary is between myth and memory. Standing inside, you can almost picture those old flatboats drifting past, their lanterns bobbing on the water. You can imagine the outlaws lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next victim. And as you step back into the light, you realize that this cave, carved by nature and haunted by history, has outlasted them all. Today it's a place for hikers, campers, and history lovers. Families picnic on the bluffs where pirates once watched for boats. Children explore the dark recesses where treasure hunters once dug. Yet even now, no one knows what truly lies beneath the surface. What relics, what secrets, or what stories remain hidden in the stone. Cave and Rock's legends endure because they tap into something timeless. Our fascination with hidden treasure, danger, and the shadows of the past. Maybe there's no gold left to find, and maybe the ghosts are only echoes of our imagination, but the feeling of mystery remains. Standing there facing that dark mouth of stone, it's easy to believe that somewhere deep inside, the past is still watching.